Well, as we just heard, businesses that are benefiting from AGOA are looking for certainty when it comes to that extension of that initiative. But the forum ended with the U.S. having shied away from giving a clear direction on that extension and that status of AGOA post-September 2025. And this while Trade, Industry and Competition Minister Ibrahim Patel is firm on those calls of a 10-year extension of the current 5-year term. Now, I did round up and wrap what came out of the forum on that final closing day. Here's that report. The U.S. is looking to make the African Growth and Opportunity Act more useful and effective, while South Africa affirmed its 10-year extension position at the closing ceremony of the 3-day forum at Nasrec in Johannesburg.
We spoke about the renewal period. Some asked for a permanent AGOA. Some asked for 20 years. It seems to me that 10 years was the period where most African ministers settled, believing that it's both achievable and at the same time can be very helpful to our own efforts.
AGOA, which is due to expire in September 2025, has been authorized twice in 2004 and 2015. A U.S. trade envoy highlighted that there were 2 more years to think about and work towards an extension.
AGOA is a statutory program, so I don't quite know how you enhance it without doing it in the statute. I think that you've already identified part of the reason why Commissioner Muchanga might have said, well, let's just renew it and then talk about the other stuff later, which is an anxiety about whether or not it will be renewed on time.
Minister Patel expressed that intensifying global tensions are just some of the considerations to be made and still pose a threat, but some labor movements are not convinced. The General Industries Workers Union of South Africa held a protest on the final day of the AGOA Forum, saying that it cannot be business as usual. The union argues that while labor unions sat on the AGOA Forum table for the first time ever, the interests of workers were not considered. He adds that it's companies from the United States that benefit the most from AGOA legislation.
AGOA is not about creating jobs. It's not about development, of the country. It is about the U.S. imperialist interest.
Earlier in the week, Washington removed Ghana, Gabon, Niger, and the Central African Republic from the trade program for failure to stick to democratic processes and human rights violations. The U.S. Congress hasn't yet set a date for a decision on the future of AGOA, with representatives concluding this year's forum remaining mum. For Newzroom Afrika, I'm Ntokozo Khumalo in Johannesburg. And the Department of Small Business Development brought hundreds of businesses to the AGOA Forum to exhibit and showcase their products to those new markets. And our business editor, Xolani Mbanjwa, caught up with Minister Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams for more on how her department is supporting SMEs to access those new markets. Take a look.
Hundreds of businesses that are being supported by the South African government are here this afternoon. They've been here since Thursday to showcase the work that they do, holding hopes that they will find the entry into those difficult markets, in particular the United States. There's a lot of hope also riding on the negotiations happening on the sidelines of this particular Made in Exhibition forum here, that the 10-year extension is going to be agreed upon. But to answer your question, I am joined by the Minister of Small Business Development, Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams, to tell us exactly the kind of support that the government is giving the small businesses in the country. Minister, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Let's talk about the hundreds of businesses that you've brought to this Made in Africa exhibition. What do you hope to achieve by bringing these small businesses who are bringing with them a lot of hope and ambition as far as where they want to go? What do you hope to achieve with them after this AGOA Forum?
Well, the first thing is that, Xolani, we are bringing small businesses here to exhibit, which means they get an opportunity to network first, they meet investors, they meet people who are interested in buying the products. But most importantly, is for them to reach, that is important, the contract that must be signed at the end of the day. We are in business, and therefore whatever work that we're doing, we want it to end on the dotted line. As we do that, they also need lots of support in terms of financing. They need to make sure that they reach beyond South Africa, Africa, and go to the world. And this is what the AGOA presents for them. And most of them, they were excited. Minister, we just got an investor now. They're going to be coming back. Minister, we clinched a deal yesterday with some local companies. As we were speaking here, look at Kotlego. It was here. Company from Limpopo, manufacturing shoes, handmade shoes. Leather shoes and jean shoes. Most of the people complain that South Africa, you eat lots of beef. What happens to your skin or your hides? And now Tlotlego found a solution to that, to say, I'm not going to be one of those that are just throwing things away. I'm going to make things out of my own hands and utilize the resources that are at our disposal. And indeed, as the department, we stepped in to assist Tlotlego to really realize his dream. And he's here to tell your story. He's been to Australia, marketing his products, he's visiting other countries, but most importantly, we want to really appeal to South Africans and Africans to start believing in locally produced brands. Yes, it's nice to have the other brands, but let's also make sure that we support these ones. That's the best way to support businesses that can create jobs here at home.
Let's talk about the contracts that are being signed here. When it comes to the contracts, and I've spoken to a number of the businesses around here, you're absolutely right. There is a lot of excitement from the businesses. A small contract, it means a lot to them because these businesses don't even have marketing budgets. They are on a shoestring budget. Let's talk about the kind of contracts that you are hoping that they get here to take them to the next level.
Well, the kinds of contract that we are looking at is the ones that wherein we get people who say, we want your product in our country. We're opening our stores for you. And that is what we're looking at. But secondly, is the one that says we can help you set a plant in our own country. Because they can be couriering stuff, sending there, but if they don't have plants, there's lots of logistical nightmare challenges and also cost implications. But if they get those contracts that say, we can help you set up your own plant in our own country, and then when that happens, you know that they can get a bigger chunk of the market of a particular country. Lastly, we want to ensure that it's not only about South Africa, it's not only about Africa, but the entire continent gets to be integrated in the global market, more specifically the American market too.
Well, as the minister said there, that AGOA should be more than just South Africa, reaping those benefits, and accessing new markets is the name of the game at the 20th AGOA Forum that took place at the Newzroom Center. But of course, it wasn't just about accessing those markets, but about bringing along businesses from the township and rural communities along for that economic ride. And during the forum, I caught up with the Township Economic Commission's Bheki Twala and the chairman of Ghana's cocoa processing company, that's Gwagu Osuwu-Boa, who are making that just happen. Take a look at this report.
We are here at AGOA. We're very excited today. We've launched our partnership with CPC from Ghana, and of which this is an opportunity for township economies, the emerging economies, to take opportunity of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. We are saying township economy, it's time now to produce for the continent, produce for the global, in terms of your produce. Because when we talk about township economy, we're talking about products that we consume that we need to produce ourselves. We're happy, we're excited. As you could see here, this is an African food basket. We've got our guys from Ghana, and then the chairperson is here. We're doing that through what we call the RISE economy, which we're bridging the gap between the emerging economies and the mainstream economies.
And when we just look at South Africa, obviously Ghana with the cocoa, popular for chocolates, and I was promised more chocolate, so I'm going to hold them to that. Yeah. But, seeing those rural communities in Ghana being part of that value chain of chocolate that goes across the globe. In South Africa, when we look at township and rural communities, we're seeing the millies and some of the produce that is produced. What are then the opportunities that AGOA opens up for South African firms to not only, expand in township markets, but also be able to enter Ghana?
Yeah, remember, we are saying as township economy, we don't want to be left behind. Now, AGOA just proven that township economy is not left behind. We are bringing, as you could see, there's a lot of African countries that are here, showcasing their produce as well, including the South African emerging businesses. It's very important to make sure that events like AGOA, BRICS, Africa Continental Free Trade, they create that platform for businesses in the township to balance the trade, because we can't then export 20% of our product and import 80% of international product. We need to start balancing the trade. These events, they give us that opportunity to do that.
Thank you so much, Budbeg. And of course, as you rightfully said, balancing that trade, and that's where some of that collaboration comes in when it comes to really balancing that trade. And I am now here at the Ghana's cocoa processing company, and I've got the chairman here with us, and that is Kwaku Osuba. Thank you so much for talking to us. We know Ghana for the cocoa, best quality cocoa, making the chocolates from around the world that we get to enjoy. Just took us through this partnership with the Township Economic Commission and why this year's AGOA Forum is so important for you as an organization.
Thank you, madam. Yes, like you said, Ghana produces the best quality cocoa all over the world. And cocoa processing company has been in the cocoa business for 58 years. We take the cocoa beans, we roast the cocoa beans, so this is the roasted cocoa beans, and it goes through stages. This, for example, what we call cocoa mass. This is cocoa butter. This is very good for the skin, and it's used by the cosmetics industry. That's a cocoa powder. This is quite good. And
this makes your hot chocolates and so on.
It's good for the heart, and generally good for the body. Indeed, I don't need to tell you, these days you can get all the information on the net, about the health benefits of consuming cocoa and cocoa products. Okay, these are varieties of chocolates. Okay, that we have here. We have cocoa.
And I've had a little bit of taste here of this one here.
Okay. So we have been in this business for 58 years, but we're now trying to break into the South African market. So last August, we had a very useful meeting with the management of Trade BRICS, and we had an agreement to come into a partnership. And basically, in this partnership, a platform is being developed where cocoa processing company products will be will be put on the platform for interested distributors, consumers in South Africa and within the sub-region, those in e-commerce, so they can have access to Ghana as a best chocolate that you can talk of in the world. And so we are in partnership in a win-win situation. Win-win in the sense that Ghana's cocoa and products and chocolate become available to consumers in the region, but cocoa processing company will also be buying our sugar and our milk, for example, that we use for the production of chocolate from South Africa. Because as of now, we buy them from elsewhere outside the African continent, and we don't want that to happen any longer, okay? So this is a win-win situation in this partnership. And it's also a way of operationalizing the vision of African leadership, in the introduction of what you call it, the AFTA and the AGOA and so on and so forth, so that Africans begin to work together and trade together. so that we generate the wealth here for the benefit of Africans. So we are trying as a team, to operationalize this idea, the vision, and we are hoping that this will go very far for us. We entreat South African consumers and everybody in the sub-region to take a bite of Ghana's cocoa and chocolate, and when they do, they will ask for more.
Well, as you do see on the screen there, the Springboks is on the move, so we'll cut the business wrap short this week. It's back to Hugo.